Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer deck tech. And today, we're going to be talking about green-white enchantment scales. I am very excited to share this very spicy enchantment list with you. As always, at the end of the video, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the deck? Is there a specific card that I definitely should have included in this deck? Or do you have suggestions for upcoming videos? Just let me know in the comment section. And before we hop into the list, so I was actually in the middle of making this deck when someone actually posted a 5-0 list from Magic Online, and their list was very similar. It's not quite 100%, but I had to shout out Kanye East. Funny enough, that's their actual name, Kanye East 315. For doing, for getting to 5-0 with a list that's very similar to this. I know that there's a little bit more like, I don't want to say fun cards that I'm playing, but it's a little bit different, but we essentially had a very similar list, which was very cool to see. So let's go and hop into it here. So enchantment skills, what made me actually want to build this deck? So the main inspiration behind this deck was the Optimistic Scavenger. So we already had Generous Visitor, which, although is technically a slightly worse card in this deck, is still really strong with Optimistic Scavenger. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So we essentially have 8 of these effects. We have the Generous Visitor and the Optimistic Scavenger that both get really big the more we play enchantments. And then we're also playing Hardened Scales, which obviously is fantastic. We're putting 1/1 counters on our creatures because we're playing enchantments, and then Hardened Scales gives us additional counters. So it's kind of like it's like Bogles in a way, but instead of having like the hexproof, we're just putting more 1/1 counters on our creatures, and it's definitely a really sweet deck. So let's go ahead and take a look at what else we're playing in this deck. So we're also playing 4 Jukai Naturalists. This card is just a really good card from Kamigawa that's kind of fallen, from the wayside since it rotated from standard, but it's still a really good card. 2/2 for 2, lifelink, enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Just a super awesome card. So this is one of the spicy cards that I'm playing in this deck. I'm playing 3 Weaver of Harmonies, 2/2 for 2. Other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1, and then for a green, you can tap it, copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. So obviously, for instance, Spirited Companion is a really good card that has an activated or triggered ability. So there's a couple different cards that we can use to really take advantage of Weaver of Harmony. It doesn't pump up, obviously, our 1-drops, but I think this card is still solid nonetheless, just because it does buff our creatures and it does some other really spicy things, which will kind of make sense in a second here. So definitely a huge fan of Weaver of Harmony. And then obviously we're playing Spirited Companion. Just playing a couple of those as just an extra cantrip, just because the card is pretty darn solid. So this next slide here is some of the cards I'm really excited about in this deck. So we're playing 4 Sheltered by Ghosts, brand new card from Duskmourn. This card is super duper good. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield, and then the creature gets +1/+0 as lifelink and ward 2. Sheltered by Ghosts is a super good card from Duskmourn. I think it's honestly one of the best uncommons, especially for Pioneer. This card is just awesome. So definitely play Sheltered by Ghosts. The card is super good. We're also playing 4 Innkeeper's Talent. This card is super strong from Bloomburrow. It's actually the most expensive card in the entire deck too, just because it puts 1/1 counters on our creature, which is good obviously with the theme of the deck. It's also an enchantment. And then permanents you control with counters on them have ward 1, which can help protect our creatures a little bit. And then obviously the level 3 there is super strong if we do end up getting to that, which is definitely realistic because it's only 4 mana. And then we're also playing 4 Shard Mage's Rescue. So this is our main protection spell that we're playing in the deck. When it enters, as long as it enters this turn, enchanted creature is hexproof, and then enchanted creature gets +1/+1, which is just a nice protection spell that also synergizes with our deck. So makes sense to play the Shard Mage's Rescue. And then rounding out our enchantments that we're playing 3 Calyx Guided by Fate and 2 Unflinching Courage. So Calyx, this card is super good. When it enters, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. When it or another enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token that's a copy of a non-legendary enchantment you control. Obviously, super duper strong card. And then Unflinching Courage, pretty self-explanatory. The idea is with our 1-drop creatures, we get a bunch of counters on them with Hardened Scales, play all of our other enchantments. It gets really big, and then Unflinching Courage gives it +2/+2 trample and lifelink, and at that point the game is essentially over, just because we have such a big creature that gains us so much life and it can't really be blocked that well. So definitely a huge fan of the Unflinching Courage as well. So that's all the non-land cards. Let's go and talk about our lands. So we're playing 4 I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, Valgavott's Lair. The only reason we're playing this card is because of the text. It is an enchantment land, which is fantastic with our creatures. Generous Visitor doesn't get to take advantage of it, obviously, just because it says whenever you cast an enchantment, but at least, you know, the other card that we're playing for that does help us take advantage of that. So definitely a huge fan of the Valgavott's Lair. Then we're also playing 4 Razorverge Thicket, 4 Temple Gardens, 4 Branch Off Pathway, 2 Brush lands as our main dual lands. We're also playing 1 Aganjo, 1 Boseiju, and then rounding out our lands, we're playing 1 Plains and 1 Forest. And as our spicy basic land of the day, whenever I think of enchantments, I always think of Theros block just because of all the really cool enchantment creatures and such. So I wanted to include the Theros Beyond Death full art lands, which I must say, I feel like I don't see that many people play these anymore. So if you still play these in your deck, just let me know in the comment section. I know it's been obviously a couple years since these have been printed, but I don't know. I always thought the art was really cool on these. So let me know what you think about these in the comments. So that's the entire main board, but don't go anywhere yet though. We still have to talk about our sideboard as well as some budget options for the deck. So sideboarding is going to be really simple. We're going to want some graveyard hate. We're playing enchantments, play Rest in Peace. That's it. I mean, just play Rest in Peace. It's the best card we could play in this deck. Declaration in Stone. So the reason I wanted to mention this card as well as Portable Hole is there's a lot of Rakdos aggro going around right now, and we're trying to avoid removal that's destroy based. We want it to be exile based. So Declaration in Stone in a way is kind of like our best option. So keep that in mind. Like, you don't have to play exile effects strictly, but I'm currently playing it right now just because of all the Rakdos decks. Destiny Spinner. I'm just putting it in the sideboard for decks that play a lot of removal or, you know, against control decks because it makes our enchantments and creatures uncounterable. And then it has a really nice activated abilities to where we can animate some of our lands based on the number of enchantments we control. So definitely a huge fan of the Destiny Spinner. And then we're also playing Deafening Silence in the sideboard just because, again, it's an enchantment, so it fits our theme, but it's also just a really good enchantment sideboard card in general. So definitely playing a few copies of Deafening Silence. And then rounding out everything, budget options. It's going to be really simple. Play some budget dual lands, and then you can swap the Calyx and the Innkeeper's Talent. So just keep in mind, though, if you're swapping the Calyx and the Innkeeper's Talent, they are easily the best cards in this deck, I would say. I mean, they are that strong. So just keep in mind, if you're swapping out for budgetary reasons, the deck is going to be a little bit less powerful. I would say Innkeeper's Talent is definitely like almost necessary for the deck. If you swap the Calyx out, that's kind of, you know, that's fine. But definitely, if you want to build this deck, I would strongly consider splurging for some Innkeeper's Talent, just because, you know, not only is the card good in this deck, but it's good in a number of different decks in Pioneer and other formats as well. But the current list as it's constructed right now is $236 US, which I would say is pretty cheap for a Pioneer deck overall. Most of the main board is pretty cheap, except for, like, again, Calyx and Innkeeper's Talent. But I was able to get the budget list down to $56 US, and I really didn't change that many cards, to be honest with you. So if you like enchantments, or you like really fun green-white aggro decks, I think this is definitely the right deck for you. Let me know in the comment section below if you do end up building a deck that's at least close to this, or if you already have something like this and it's similar and you play different cards, just let me know, you know, what your list is in the comment section. So that takes us to the end of the video here. Thanks so much for watching. The deck lists are in the description below if you'd like to check them out for yourself. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, and Sarwanoki. If you were interested in being a channel member, it's only $1 US a month, and you get access to the exclusive Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. So, I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.